Hi guys, how's it going? I just wanted to have a chance to read through J-Hope's interviews and figured if you're like me and are very busy and you haven't had a chance to do so yet, maybe it might be easier to listen to them if someone reads through them out loud for you. And that way you don't have to worry about reading a screen. So I wanted to read through the Weverse magazine interview that just dropped yesterday, and then I have a couple of other ones pulled up. Jazz, you haven't had a chance to read them either. Exactly. Oh yay, I'm glad. Yeah, I figured I would read through the Weverse one and then see based on I don't know how long this takes. I have a bunch of the other ones pulled up. And I was figuring I could read through those too. So this is just going to be chill. I'll have the interview on screen so you can read along yourself if you want to, or you can just have me playing in the background and let my voice take you away and give you all the secrets that J-Hope left for us. Okay, give me a second to figure out this thing. There we go. Okay. Alrighty. Hi, Jen. Can you guys hear me okay? Is the music too quiet, too loud? I'm still experimenting with my new sound system. I'm not as tech savvy as other people, so you guys just let me know if you want anything adjusted because I can adjust it. Theoretically. Okay, alrighty. So, I'm just gonna read through it. Your comments will show up on screen if you want to comment. And I will try to take breaks and see if you've written anything. And yeah, my own commentary might be sprinkled in here. Alright, let's go. Whoops, wrong thing. Okay, music is a bit low. Okay, I turned it up a little bit. You guys can let me know if it's too much or still too little. Alright, so the interview is Human J-Hope, a review of Jack in the Box. Let me make this bigger. In the music video for Outro Ego, J-Hope's solo song off BTS's album Map of the Soul 7, the singer is bedridden as doctors check his vital signs. The same happens in the music video for More, the first single off his solo album Jack in the Box, released on the 15th, where he adopts a persona named Jack. By the way, that pause was me trying to remember what they were talking about in Ego. Sorry. J-Hope's vitals are restored through love and joy in the Outro Ego video, and the monitor reappears in the More music video, but on Jack's opposite side this time. Where the monitor once was is an X-ray image of Jack's skeleton. In Outro Ego, J-Hope's efforts, captured in the line, "Every day ask me, guess it, whip it, repeat," are reinforced by the line, "I don't care, it's all, choices by my fate." It's that strength that allows him a life where the way is shinin'. Conversely, in More, he's still self-learning for 11 years for his art that I crash and fall to make, because he's still after performing in a stadium with my fans and winning all the trophies. Oh my god, that sentence was really hard to read with all those quotes. While Outro Ego focuses on the present and the shimmering path to the future, More looks at his desire to succeed even more. Between the releases of the two songs was the pandemic. In a V Live, J-Hope held on the 16th, titled "Check Out What's in Jack in the Box." He revealed that he made more in 2020 after the pandemic started. He also worked on BTS's album B during the pandemic as well, and on his track Disease, he speaks to the anxiety and push to fight tooth and nail for results daily when there was no work to do after the pandemic first started. If the stadium with my fans and all the trophies mentioned and more are seen as achievements, then these could be seen as an obsessive drive caused by anxiety rather than ambition. It isn't easy to see a bright future ahead when pandemic-induced anxiety sets in. The J-Hope heard in Outro Ego wants to use the past to ensure the present is satisfying and leads to a glimmering future. But the life that the J-Hope and more experienced during the pandemic cast the future in uncertainty. Very true. All he can do is push himself to get something more. More is a reconstruction of J-Hope's past, present, and future from an entirely different perspective from Outro Ego, which reflects on J-Hope's life and paints a picture of an artist who has found enormous success through his whip-like efforts. But nothing about life is so certain in More. So this is an intro, right? And it's passive. Like somebody else wrote it, not him. But I wonder if this is them paraphrasing what they already know. Like, is this true or is this the writer's interpretation? Because let's assume that it's true, that it's based on what Hobie has said about his songs and his feelings and perspectives writing Outro Ego versus More. If that's the case, then I can totally understand that the pandemic, basically before it, with their rise, he kind of felt invincible and felt like nothing could stop them. And I don't know, in a way it was kind of naive. And then with the pandemic and how it ruined so many things for them, ruined so many plans they had, and took away, well, basically robbed them of this beautiful bookend that they wanted to have to their group career before they went off to do solo projects and military stuff. In contrast to that, like now after the pandemic, he's much more realistic about how I guess uncertain and difficult life is, and how nothing is as, I don't know, it's hard to assume or like think of him as naive or looking at life with rose-colored glasses prior to the pandemic, because it's not like BTS's rise to the top was that easy, right? Like, they suffered a lot to get where they were. But maybe, I don't know, maybe they'd grown like comfortable in how successful they were and how loyal ARMY was and how much we kept growing. I don't know. Let me know if you guys have any thoughts on this as I keep reading. Okay. The song before More, Pandora's Box, dives into the genesis of J-Hope's name. The hope portion was borrowed from Pandora's history, meaning, quote, a frame that's meant to be the hope of BTS. By contrast, More links the genesis of Hope with a dark personal story that takes place during the pandemic. In that sense, the Jack in Jack in the Box is open to interpretation. Jack could be an unknown being who emerges from Pandora's box in place of Hope, but he only appears once J-Hope opens the box in the More video. In other words, he comes about as a result of Hope opening it. This suggests an interesting contradiction. Can Hope remove Hope from Pandora's box? And if J-Hope himself is Hope, then what is his own hope? This is very interesting. This is an interpretation that I didn't have. But I'm gonna assume that like this is accurate, right? Because they wouldn't write some random person's interpretation who didn't really know what Hobie's own thoughts were, right? That would be really weird for Weverse or self-publicated magazine to be like, we're gonna give you a random interpretation of Hobie's music because why the fuck not? No, I think they would definitely want to be accurate and give more, I guess, agency to what the artist wanted to get across. So I'm gonna assume all this is accurate, in which case the album for me then becomes even darker and a little more, I don't know, sad. to hear that, like, the pandemic really shattered a lot of the positive perspective and hope that he had in himself and his career, and that it put him, I don't know, into this more uncertain personality. That's sad to me, but also, like, that's an understandable reaction to a global pandemic, unprecedented in all of history. Like, it's a natural reaction. I'm not saying he's abnormal, but it still makes me sad. Let me keep going. In Disease, J-Hope turns to a sip of coffee as a way to get through the anxiety that accompanies the pandemic. His positivity allows him to swallow down any distress in a single gulp. The opening of the outro Ego video is a flash of images of BTS ranging from their debut and up to the video's release. It's a solo song for J-Hope, but it also belongs to all of BTS. J-Hope and his song are a vehicle through which to demonstrate remarkable history of success. However, while functioning as the group's hope, J-Hope has no box in which he can find his own source of hope to relieve his anxiety. When he sings solo, he becomes Jack, not Hope, and explores the part of himself that was hidden under his Hope name. I do like that concept of Hope, of Jack being Hope's alter ego in a way, but more so the Jack is like his underbelly. Oh, hi, Wendy. So yeah. Let me keep reading. J-Hope groups his album songs into 3 chapters, each raising its own questions. While the set of Intro, Pandora's Box, and More takes a look back into the past, beginning with the origin of J-Hope's name, and reconstructs it from Jack's perspective, Stop and Equal Sign run with the idea that I'll enlighten myself first. It's just distinction, not discrimination, in terms of the world he sees and the people in it. The instrumental Music Box Reflection comes next in the track list, serving as a turning point in the album, followed by What If, which challenges the listener to ask themselves if they should be so critical. To love yourself and get some hope, even though you lose everything and hit bottom, can you really say that? By rethinking the way he approaches his origins, he gains an interest in the world and others around him, which in turn leads to an examination of the dilemma that arises in the relationship between himself and the rest of the world. Wait, let me read that again. By rethinking the way he approaches his origins of choosing his name of Hope, he gains an interest in the world and others around him, which in turn leads to an examination of the dilemma that arises in the relationship between himself and the rest of the world. Okay, I think they're trying to say that when he thinks about where hope comes from and what it's for, he starts to wonder, well, what is his hope? What is he supposed to look for when everybody else is looking to him? Okay, I get that. Looking at the lyrics of the next song, Safety Zone, provides some insight into what J-Hope set out to say with the album. Quote, "Where can I find a stump to sit and quietly reflect on what's happened?" Judging by these lyrics, Jack in the Box seems as though it acts as a mental stump or safe zone from which J-Hope can conduct personal reflection. He lifts his inner Jack out of the box, his safety zone, and takes a look at himself. Jack may come across as J-Hope's dark side for the spooky mood he exudes, but he actually appears to be a guide who helps J-Hope towards self-reflection. This is some meta shit interpretation right here. I guess my interpretation of the album was way more literal, and this is a lot more interesting and intricate. I like it. It's a lot different than what I myself had thought, so I'm like sitting here. Sorry for these pauses. It's me trying to, my brain like cogs turning, trying to understand what I'm reading and what it's trying to say. Okay. The process of accepting his life as it is, while observing it and discovering his deepest concerns, leads him to a breakthrough. He goes on to admit knowing, with bruised pride, that nothing is forever in the next track, Future. J-Hope knows that the future, quote, can't be determined. The closer it is, the scarier it gets, and it's harder to deal with alone. He doesn't deny reality or try to escape it. Instead, he chooses to be, quote, the most suitable, the most like me, and tries to fight for himself and as myself. He knows he can't be the salmon swimming against the current, but that's why he would rather have a future that looks necessary to me and finds hope through courage and faith. Listeners will likely discern the reason J-Hope went with childlike backing vocals and a children's chorus in the song. The children whose futures stretch beyond his will be impacted by him regardless of his choices. While he mulls over the strength he has found from being a member of BTS in What If, and the weakness he has found from the same in Safety Zone, in Future, he accepts his responsibility. And hope is the inner strength that props up that sense of responsibility. At this point, the hope in J-Hope is more than simply a word, one that symbolizes J-Hope and his role in BTS, and is now also the compass that guides J-Hope through life and a fundamental part of his identity, gained through continuous self-reflection. Just as Hope never left Pandora's box, J-Hope has left a trail of hope throughout his lifetime of experience and contemplation. In the Jack in the Box intro, hope is the mythical property that remains in Pandora's box. After listening to the full album, hope becomes faith in the real world and therefore a sense of motivation. Okay, let me pull this apart and see if I can understand what they're trying to say. The part where they say that J-Hope feels a lot of a sense of responsibility to others, to the people who will... I agree with that. I think he's always been a very responsible person in terms of what he has done for BTS and also in general through his songs. Even on his original mixtape, Hope World, you really get the sense that he has accepted the mantle of being other people's hope, of being this person who has to provide ideas and motivation and hope to other people in order to help them get through life. So I think what they're trying to say in this paragraph is that this album is J-Hope mulling over the fact that, like, I've accepted so much responsibility. What about me? Who's going to support me? And him discovering that the answer to that question is that he has to go with the flow, that he just has to let it be and do what he can. Also, hold on, that sentence. Hope is the inner strength that props up that sense of... Blah, blah, blah. At this point, the hope in J-Hope is more than simply a word, one that symbolizes J-Hope and his role in BTS, and is now also the compass that guides J-Hope through life and a fundamental part of his identity gained through continuous self-reflection. So I think what this article is trying to say is that J-Hope has supposedly understood that, like, his role of being hope for other people, of being that kind of strength for other people, is something that's just part of his identity, and it's not like he can stop, it's just who he is, and it's okay. After listening to the full album, hope becomes faith in the real world and therefore a sense of motivation. So basically, I think this last sentence is trying to say that hopefully after you listen to the album and you see what Hobie's own, like, ways of dealing with the the difficulties of living in the world, like the discrimination that people get, like in his song Equal Sign and Stop, like, that you shouldn't... I think this article is trying to say that hopefully you, after listening to that, will have faith in the world and therefore will be motivated to keep going because you've gotten hope from the things that Hobie said in his album. Is it just me, or does it feel like the people who write these articles, English isn't their first language? Not in the sense that they're bad at English, but in the sense that the way they think about how to explain things in English is not the way I would be used to it. So I'm always like trying to understand, like, well, what are you trying to say? It's a very interesting way of like writing out logical connections and all that. Like, I'm not saying it's bad or anything. It makes me wonder if this is somebody who's fluent in Korean and then learned English and became fluent in English, and like they take that kind of thinking and bring it into how they write in English. It's very interesting. It's a very different way, for me at least, to read things and try to interpret what they're saying. Okay, let's move on. Music Box Reflection is a mix of an actual music box and samples of J-Hope breathing. His breathing first fluctuates prominently side to side before receding into the background. While we typically associate the sound of a music box with slowly lulling children to sleep, here it sounds more like the prelude to a nightmare. Assuming that it's Jack making those breathing noises, that would make him a monster. But once the interlude ends, the songs What If, Safety Zone, and Future progressively lighten up the mood with less weighty beats. Still, even in Future, the brightest of those tracks, J-Hope's rapping continues to sound distant and somewhat subdued. Given that Jack in the Box is an exploration of J-Hope's issues and worries, and his path to acceptance of his anxieties surrounding the future, even a song that carries a message of hope can't be entirely optimistic and upbeat. The cover art for the album, created by contemporary artist KAWS, intuitively captures what it is that J-Hope's music embodies. At first glance, the characters in KAWS' work appear playful because of their bright colors and the ways they are posed, but they elicit complex emotions. The same goes for the cover of Jack in the Box, where J-Hope sits on brightly colored hands in a black and white checkerboard suit. The overall sense of color and pop art are similar to the cover of his mixtape Hope World, but the emotion KAWS cover conveys isn't nearly so bright and positive. J-Hope uses different elements of self-expression to show his core identity to be dark, complex, and ultimately true to himself. J-Hope's creation of Jack is one of the most phenomenal parts of Jack in the Box. The album uses the intense character of Jack as a powerful symbol of the complicated process of self-exploration found throughout. But the more you listen to the album, the more it becomes clear just how important Jack's role is. Okay. It wasn't to me. I'm just reading this and wondering if I failed at interpreting this album. As a character who can take the beautiful sound of a music box and warp it into a scene of darkness and fear, Jack seems to symbolize J-Hope's darker side. With a dark side added to the innate hopeful side of J-Hope, the artist is now capable of expressing himself through a wider spectrum of emotions as an equal sign in Future, even though he still presents his thoughts through upbeat songs with positive messages like before. Jack is both a symbol of Jack in the Box and a prominent reoccurring figure throughout, like a rabbit in a maze that helps listeners follow the hidden complexities of the album. Okay. Just curious, did any of you interpret it this way? Am I the odd one out? By following the Jack rabbit, J-Hope creates something entirely removed from his past work. A beat close to old school hip hop weaves its way through the songs and lays the foundation for the entire album, while the bass sounds more like it was created through an effects plugin than live playing, and contributes an ominous atmosphere that fills the listener's entire surroundings if listened aloud on speakers. Jen says not really. Okay, good, I'm not alone. Yeah. What did I just read? Oh, the bass sounds like we should be listening to it on loudspeakers. Yeah, well that's what I feel like you should do in general. Loud bass sounds amazing on big speakers so that you can hear it vibrating in your chest. The sound effects that play in front of, behind, and to the sides of the listener help to immerse them in the soundscape constructed to tell a story belonging to Jack, J-Hope, and Jong Ho-seok all at once. Jack in the Box, then, is like a movie that comes wrapped up in an old-school hip-hop album. J-Hope's thoughts come through not only his raps, but through the soundscape itself, making him both a rapper and a storyteller or actor. I mean, I definitely agree that he told a really good story through his album, and that you could tell that there was a narrative from one song to the next. And I mean, I talked about it in my stream about where we like listened to his album, and also how there was this one army translator on Twitter, Colin something, I forget what the handle is, but they went through and like basically wrote all the lyrics out as as if they were a long narrative, and it was really cool, and you could really tell his like how his thoughts were, like his thought process was progressing with each song. Anyway, where were we? The way the album changes subtly and logically across the tracks is a clear reflection of that world. The bass in both Pandora's Box and More is so deep that it seems to sit on your chest while listening at loud enough a volume. Like I said. While the distortion in the background of Pandora's Box becomes a key guitar motif in More. The deeper tones begin to disappear as the songs become brighter and move toward J-Hope's message, reflecting his philosophy and how he sees the world. J-Hope revealed that What If samples Old Dirty Bastard's Shimmy Shimmy Ya. He made this album using the music he listened to as a trainee as the bones, and filled it out with exquisite sound design and hi-fi vocals. Just 11 years ago, J-Hope was a trainee improving his rap skills by listening to old school hip-hop. Now he's become a global superstar who has achieved his goal of reflecting on his past and present life using the same sound. I think that's really cool that he used beats from when he was a trainee. I think it really speaks to how all of the things that he's talking about are really at the core of who he is and of his identity and how he thinks. And plus there's like sentimental value of like your childhood, the things that made you into who you are today, your formative experiences. Only 7 people in the world can call themselves a member of BTS. Yes, true. And J-Hope can count himself among them, also true. But he neither revels in nor rejects this fact. Yeah, not in this album. I mean, in general, I would say yes, but not in this album. Instead, he goes about his unusual everyday life, fulfilling what he must, even though it would be hard for others to relate to him. He dives into what kind of person he is and thinks about what he will do in the world, all the while aware that what he can do is affected by his unique position in it. He also worked with KAWS to top off an album whose sound he had already worked so diligently toward. Wait, I thought KAWS was like a designer. Oh, when he says top off an album, he means like cover art? Okay. This paragraph confuses me because it's writing as if like... Is it someone who like knows J-Hope, knows Hobie? And Hobie literally told them like, I don't revel or reject the fact that I'm part of BTS. I just go about my life. Okay. Anyway, Hobie also worked with KAWS to top off an album whose sound he had already worked so diligently toward. As such, his rapping inevitably harkens back to the tastes and influences he's had throughout his life. I don't know if it's about inevitably harking back. It's more like he chose to include a lot of references to his formative years and the things that have influenced him throughout his life because he was trying to write about something so close to his heart. Okay, whatever. Maybe it's just a word choice thing. Including Old Dirty Bastard, the movie The Curious Case of Benjamin Button, and Seo Taiji and Boys 1996, When They Conquered the World, and the Buddhist ideal that everything relies on the mind. The lyrics, greed, envy, anger, jealousy, from Pandora's Box, match both the rhythm and the flow of a line from that Seo Taiji and Boys song, War, Drugs, Murder, Terror. BTS were guests at the concert for the 25th anniversary of the debut of the group's leader. Okay. J-Hope created a character that encompasses all these things in one concept and released merchandise based on that character. Why is there an exclamation point there? Okay, anyway. J-Hope took everything that made him who he is today and made it into Jack in the Box, and packaged it in a way that only a member of BTS could. The album also represents the first attempt to answer a question that it and all the members of BTS will and do face. What can, and what should, the members of BTS do in their solo work? In J-Hope's case, he chose art. Aren't they all gonna choose art in their solo work? Okay, I shouldn't nitpick. Ichigo says Cause is favorite of Hobie and Namjoon's favorite bear like skull figure, and Cause is a popular artist maker. Yeah, okay, that's what I thought. The sentence where they talked about it confused me because I thought they were trying to say that like Cause helped Hobie make the music in the album, but I think they were trying to say that Cause made the cover. I don't know. I'm not a fan of this paragraph very much, but whatever. Let's take one last look at the outro Ego music video. In the video, J-Hope starts out bedridden, but makes a full recovery and hopes into a red car. I'm gonna assume it means hops into a red car. He drives the car toward the seemingly endless Shinin Way, but this never happens in the More video. There, J-Hope checks his vitals, but never leaves the building throughout. The car appears later in the video for Arson, the last track off Jack in the Box. J-Hope walks among a line of burned out cars. Behind him is a house, specifically a large painting of one, in flames. Wait, are they saying that the car from Ego is in Arson and it's all burnt up? Can anyone verify that? I haven't looked into that too closely. In the outro Ego video, J-Hope walks forward against a background made from a collage of photos. Arson repeats this walking idea, but this time in a true three-dimensional space, where everything is up in flames and broken. He wears the same white outfit from More, but here the fire has caused them to be somewhere between white and black. The deep sound effects that gradually taper off as the album progresses toward Future return to once again press down on the soundscape, and the clear, knife-like drum beat adds tension. J-Hope doesn't rap as intensely in Jack in the Box as he does in songs until he arrives at Arson, where he states, "Let's burn. It's done." His motivation behind my thoughtless ambition has all burned up and now says his part of the job is done, adding, "Leaving when there's still applause, that's the style." It's quite the unexpected turn away from the endless shining path of outro Ego. J-Hope falls back onto the ground at the end of Arson, and the video ends there. However, Jack in the Box is only whole once this video ends. Huh? Okay. Beginning with the most beautiful moment in life series, history as a group has been just like in the outro Ego video. They rose up and overcame every obstacle on their endless path to unbelievable success. But by going solo, J-Hope seems to have put an end to that path in Arson. Why would... Yummy, stop nitpicking. Throughout Jack in the Box, J-Hope's self-reflection points to hope for the future, but he eventually confesses that, once your heart's been burned, no great human act will help to restore it. Okay, I think this is one interpretation. I don't think it's the only interpretation of Arson. Unless this writer specifically talked to Hobie and this is what Hobie said he meant. The road has come to an end, but the human dilemma of endless questions, reflection, and the search for answers continues on. The artist didn't come into his success with an inflated ego. He reflected on his current situation and turned it into an album. Making art based in self-reflection is likely a long-standing desire for both J-Hope and BTS. True. It's a desire for all artists, one that, like the hope that remains in Pandora's box, won't disappear even after everything else has burned to the ground. Okay, this is definitely one person's interpretation. Jazzy says, I think I saw someone on Twitter make that connection with the car. Oh, cool. Okay. Jen says, yeah, I'm curious to know if they spoke to him too. Yeah, like I was on board I was on board in the beginning, where they talked about how he might have. Hold on, who wrote this? Kang Myung-sok. I don't know who this is. Some dude. Sounds like a guy. Where they talked about how the pandemic really shattered Hobie's like hope and positive outlook on the world, considering, you know, he realized how uncertain life and his career really could be. I was on board with that. Totally understand. But the part where they basically said that like the album was him, like Arson ends with him basically burning away all his hope in other people and just leaving the fact that all he can do is create art with his suffering and like the experiences he's gone through, and that like that's all he can do. This is one interpretation. I don't think it's the only one. More than one can be right. I don't know. What do you guys think? Am I just being a bitch about this? I could be. What if I Google this dude? I just want to know who the fuck he is. Okay, well, Boris says that he's one of the few writers who actually writes good articles. But she said this in, 2019, so maybe the opinion has changed. And then, is this his Instagram? Is this him? Okay, I'm gonna stop doing this. This is not very helpful. But yeah. Okay. All right. Jazzy says, to be honest, this article kind of went over my head. Yeah, I mean, I can understand that. I think part of it is the way it's written. I don't think, like I said before, it seems to me like it's written by someone for whom English is not their first language. It's this, like, the second, it's a later language that they became fluent in. So, and for anyone who's multilingual, you know that language determines kind of how you think. So if the first language you learned in, or the one you're most comfortable in, influences how you think, and if you try to learn a different language, you bring that thought process into that other language. So I think this is maybe the reason why it's kind of hard to follow in some places. But also, I don't know, I didn't interpret it this way. I am open to other people's interpretation, and art has no one correct interpretation. You can have many different interpretations be simultaneously correct. But yeah. Ichigo says, I think the article was trying to say that J-Hope lost all motivation to COVID and burnt out to express to ARMY, I think. Yeah. Yeah. I think that's what they're trying to say too. And if that's the case, I totally think that that's, like, I would totally understand it if that's what happened to Hobie. I wouldn't be surprised. I think it's absolutely normal. I just also think you can interpret the way that burnout feels to him in multiple ways. Because my interpretation of Arson was that it's also a reflection of him being burnt out by their fast-paced, breakneck pace career, of how fast they've been going forward, and he's like, I'm done. It's done. I've succeeded. Now what? So, eeny weeny. That's that one. Do you guys want to read another one? I have all of them open. I think I want to read the W Korea English translation, which is an interview with Hobie. So let's do that, because I haven't had a chance to read this one either. So this is the W Korea. I'm assuming that's a magazine. I've never heard of it before. And they have an English translation for their interview of Hobie's album. Jazzy says, side note, I just saw Weverse hinting to stream the festival on Twitter. Okay, well, I'm definitely streaming it, so... There was an option not to? I need to see this. Alright, let's read this article. A New Hope. BTS is ready to open the door to the new world. J-Hope reveals his unlimited ambition and confidence through his solo project, Jack in the Box, with his feet firmly standing on his own, rather than the world the others are expecting. Everything here you're about to see is the J-Hope you didn't know. It was beyond everyone's imagination. When J-Hope released one of the double title tracks of his solo More from Jack in the Box, ahead of other tracks, people showed such an enthusiastic response. Given the journey which BTS has gone through and all the spotlight that was on them, their decision to focus and expand solo careers seems wise. Okay. BTS showed a meteoric rise, and if they were to deepen and widen their world, the name of the most popular boy group in the world will be much more solid. Okay, sure, that's one way of interpreting their reason for doing solo stuff, whatever. On the other hand, it is a challenge and almost an adventure to stand on the stage alone without the members. True. I always wondered how they, in their 20s, handle all the love and enthusiasm towards them. When J-Hope roared, "I want some more," and raps, "the fire too big to put out," it sounded like a clever answer to the silly question of taking up the weight. J-Hope sitting in front of me for an interview seemed excited and even thrilled. Was he the most energetic member of the group? I distinctly remember when President Biden played Butter with 7 members before him. J-Hope was the first one to start seal clapping. Whenever I see his lively reaction, his moves are like a rhythmical performance. The moment we started shooting the cover of W Korea, he switched his mode. He changed the air around him. He even created rhythm while standing still, with his slightly slanted shoulder and sleek silhouette. The last track of the album, another title song, Arson has J-Hope walking amidst the explosion. Even there, his walk carries many emotions and meanings. It just comes to me that a musician's performance is not just simple choreography, but a part of an act. We had an interview before the solo album was released on July 15th. Jack in the Box will be released in digital format, and the Weverse album version will be released on July 29th. Seal clapping. Yeah, I know. I'm trying not to judge this too hard because this is a translation of a Korean interview first. So maybe this is another translation thing. Like something gets lost in translation. Trying not to be mean. Okay, W Korea. Hello, Captain Jong. I see you are not switched to dance teacher mode yet. J-Hope. Ha ha ha. I am indeed. It is nice to meet you. Congratulations. Your solo album, Jack in the Box, is to release a week after. I know. Finally, I guess. You are the first runner to release a solo album. How do you feel now? I don't know how I feel right now. Smile. First, it's really hectic. I need to focus while checking every detail. I mean, wow. I have no words to explain my feelings now. On the first day of June, you unveiled one of the titles of the Jack in the Box, More. I found it impressive to see you playing with this intensity and confidence in the music video. It was a treat for the eyes, also. I listened to all the songs before releasing More, and I was confident. With this quality, I thought I could show it to the world, to the armies, other artists, and industry people. I put all of my heart in, so I knew what I was doing. You've been looking around to get some responses to the early release? I looked up the fans' reviews and reaction videos, and most of them were close to my expectations. Those surprised faces? J-Hope? Seriously? Haha. Well, that's cute. I know some of them secretly look up reactions and fan stuff on the internet. I would assume they only look up the Korean stuff because they're gonna get the most, you know, like impact there than listening to anyone in any other languages. But that's really cute that they do that, and I hope they get happy from what they see, because especially in this day and age, that's probably like the most person-to-person fan interaction they're gonna get, which sucks. But More is introduced as old school hip-hop. Actually, to talk about a specific genre of my music with my musical spectrum, I just like what I like, so I don't think you need to name the genres and define them. I try to accept things intuitively and express them, like, this mood needs this vibe. Yeah, that's something I've noticed. Both the previous article and this one really focused on, like, it's old school hip-hop, old school. And I'm like, are they trying to focus on that to say that, like, he's no longer an idol? He's now, you know, trying to make a name for himself in the Korean hip-hop scene or on the global hip-hop scene? Again, I personally don't give a shit about genre and what genre they choose to make music in, because I love seeing them make all kinds of music and all kinds of genre. But obviously, I'm biased. I'm a fan. Like, I will be a fan of anything they do. So maybe as an artist, though, he is going to be focusing on these kinds of things and trying to get recognition from his peers in whatever corner of the industry in the genre that he cares about. Still annoys me, though. I heard a rock sound on More, and you appeared in the music video with a band session, and I came across many reactions like, what? J-Hope is doing rock? But I take it you are not doing the rock, but including the rock sound to make more efficient expression and energy for the song. You hit the spot there. More was completed after a lot of thought, like, we need this sound at this point, or it should be bursting out here. Of course, I do love rock music, but I added those features just to amplify the vibe the song has. You might hear people say, what makes this song an old school boom bap hip hop? It has a rock chorus in it. Or, how can this be rock music? Too much this and that. But if you go through the whole album, you will see what I meant you to see. Good. Good. He's not wedded to any specific genre. That makes me happy. So are you trying to explore various genres throughout the album? Under some unity, I give each track a twist. Many musicians don't want to limit their music to one genre or one color. True. As long as you are not a critic, most listeners take the music intuitively, as you said, or through the general feeling of the song, like visual expressions. True. In this sense, More and Arson are somewhat in line with each other. You are correct. I had a clear message that I wanted to convey through the album. To tell the message, I need more strong sound and bold visual effects. Arson is listed at the end of the album list. It is not common to put the title at the bottom. True, and I really like it when BTS do that. But I wanted to do that. The questions that I have been dealing with, do I go for it, or do I need to take a break here? The trajectory of feelings regarding the question is captured in the album. Well, okay, this answer right here makes me think that my interpretation of Arson is more in line. Okay, more than one interpretation can be right, Yami. Calm down. You had a clear message, meaning that you need to do more? Yes, that is right. Listening through all 10 tracks on the album, I wanted to ask you whether those are close to the ones that you are good at or the ones that you would like to do. But I think it's closer to the J-Hope at this moment, or J-Hope of the latest. That's a weird translation. Yes, I focused on putting my emotions over the last years on the album more than anything. So my vibes is it has had limitations. I need darker colors to tell my stories and feelings. That is where the album begins. The mixtape Hope World in 2018 had one of its tracks with a motif of the novel 20,000 Leagues Under the Sea. This time you got a chance to see the deep inside of yourself. It has been 10 years as BTS. As you know, after the mixtape, we had unbelievable momentum. Those honorable moments, And at the time, we went through something bigger and tore it around the world. Then I discovered the shadows of myself that I didn't notice before. I needed a chance to display those. The most important thing when you write a song is that you have a story. A story gives sincerity to music and motivation to work. That came to me. I have a story to tell and I need to speak. It's very interesting, and I kind of do agree. We humans remember things best and connect to things emotionally best when we have a story. If you just give us a floating concept, a lot of the time, we don't latch onto it. That's why if you think about like the way things are taught in school or trainings you get in your job, you get examples of problems and how to solve them. You get like a scenario so that you remember a story in relation to something that you're supposed to be learning or remembering. And it's the same with music or any kind of art. If there's some kind of story being told along with the beautiful art that is being given to you, then you get it more and you're more emotionally invested. I want to know where the title Jack in the Box came from. It occurred to me that the music J-Hope had been doing may be stuck in a box. Then BTS performed in a stadium, spoke at a UN General Assembly, got to stand on a huge stage for Grammy Award, and then to the White House. Many feelings were built up through those experiences, and finally were taken out of the box. The very concept of Jack in the Box is the one I've been discussing with Bang PD long before my debut. Well, I have hope in my name. We talked about how I would be a lasting hope of BTS, and jump out as to surprise the world. Well, that's interesting. It kind of seems to be a more positive interpretation than the one in the Weverse interview we just read. It seems like here Hobie is saying, like, hope is the last thing in Pandora's box, and so if you can turn that into a Jack in the Box where you just pop out the hope and scare people with it. And then the thought that it occurred to me that the music J-Hope had been doing may be stuck in a box, and then we did all those things. Interesting. Yeah, I mean, they've always had that conflict of just being an idol mean that we're trapped in the kind of music we can make and the things that we can express. Interesting. Why would you think that the past has been inside of the box? I know it is a metaphor, but why? There was some immature part of my music in the past, naturally. The immaturity has its own vibe, and I do not want to deny those times. However, I wanted to bring out the darker, somewhat serious, and agonizing self, apart from the bright side that people are used to. People see me as always upbeat and full of energy, but the moment I step inside my home, I'm literally knocked out. That makes me wonder, which one is truly myself? I figured that I do come on both sides, and decided to open the box and show a little more of me. Well, that's interesting. His metaphor here seems to be that his true self is hiding in the box. And I also understand that not everyone can always be upbeat and energetic and positive, because being like that takes a lot of fucking energy. So the part where he's like, I come home and just literally knock out, I'm exhausted, makes a lot of sense to me. Tracing what BTS has achieved over the years, it seems like you have taken over the planet. I'm editing this translation as I go to make it make more sense. Sometimes you were grateful, and sometimes you were overwhelmed. Then the voice inside you gives the answer. Thirsty. I want some more. And right, I am the one who lit the fire. Right, I want to do more and I want to look cooler. I have this idea. When the light is out, I will be the one who lights the fire again. Working on this album made sure that I am the person who needs work. I mean, working on something sets my heart beating. Even though I'm sleep deprived, tired, and hectic, taking a rest could not help me. I wrote the song for the album during the pandemic. It was leisurely compared to the past, so I could realize it for sure. Time passes by and life goes on, so I could not stand myself. Even though it's immature ambition, I need to do something, I thought. Okay, let me translate this. I think what his answer is trying to say is that he really likes the idea, when the light is out, I will be the one who lights the fire again. Which, again, to me goes back to the thought that he feels a big sense of responsibility to himself and the people around him and the world to be this, like, motivation, hope, inspiration for other people, to be this, like, strength that people can borrow. And then he was saying that he's someone who he realized that he's someone who always needs to be working on something, and that idleness does not make him happy. So even if making an album and making art is really tiring and hectic and makes him suffer, he needs to do that, because that's like taking a break and doing nothing doesn't make him feel any better. It makes him feel worse, if nothing. And then he was saying that he wrote this album and did a lot of stuff during the pandemic, and even though compared to like their work schedule before, it was a lot less packed during the pandemic, it was in a sense leisurely. Because of that extra time he got, he could make sure that the songs he made for this album were even better and were like what he wanted to say. And then I think he was trying to say that, like, even if this might be immature and I don't know what I'm doing, I have to make this album. I have to do stuff. That is how I'm interpreting his answer. Let me know if you think differently. You are a creator and a performer. The pandemic has changed the contact point, your settings, and your stage. The audience and their artists communicate through performances. We need to give and take and share each other's energy. If it's not a face-to-face performance, it was not enough for me and us. Totally agree. So being a BTS member, you have more stories to tell, and the pandemic definitely has some effect on the album. I started working on the album after the pandemic, maybe in 2020. I had to halt the individual project because BTS had things to do. I got down to working on the album at the end of the last year. So at the end of 2021? It was after the concert in LA, so yes, around the time when I could take days off and the pandemic situation was getting better. I worked like mad for about a month and a half. It is really hard to concentrate fully on something usually because of the schedule. I knew that the minute I thought, I gotta do this, I needed to do it or the chance would be blown away. So I never left the studio. Yeah, wow. So you know what? It makes it sound to me like they all went to LA and their experience there, being reunited with ARMY and performing, made them all really realize, I still love this. I still need it. I haven't had it for 2 years, and even though I got really depressed and dejected and was in despair that I could ever have a career like we had in the past and that I could ever like it as much, they went to that concert and they were like, I fucking love this. This is amazing. And then he had time off after it, and so he's just like, he got so motivated and inspired by the concert. He's like, I'm fucking making this album, and I won't leave my studio. I will sleep in here until it's done. Isn't that what Namjoon said as well in his live, that Hobie was like sleeping in his studio? Makes sense. MK says, what a relief. Yeah, right? It's really nice to have some kind of confirmation that those concerts in LA affected them as well positively, and that they were like, fuck yes, I love this. I love being an artist. Music is amazing. I need to make more of it. Good. Hope World is a mixtape you released in 2018 on SoundCloud. It literally is your debut mixtape with your name on it. I believe it was a great experience before the solo. Did you have any lessons learned from it? Wow, I learned too much actually. I listened to all the songs I wrote before working on the solo. One verse from 2015, songs from the mixtape from 2018, and Chicken Noodle Soup in 2019. I wanted to showcase my moves and the chill vibes from LA, and the mixtape displays the vibes that are only possible at that time. So he's talking about Hope World here, right? But I could not tell whether they have a theme or a uniformity. I wanted to do lots of things, this and that. What did I really want to do back then? This next album needs to have some kind of unity, I thought. If you listen to RM's mixtape, you can tell his has unity. Also, there's something in August D, Suga's mixtape. So this is where he was like, I don't want to make a collection of songs. I want to make an album with a storyline so that you can listen and learn something from start to finish. Understandable. And I also like that he learned something from the other mixtapes that got released. There is a time you want to boost the variety, and there is a time when you need to focus on your strength. I listened to other members' mixtapes and mine and was inspired, and I could clear my head. The members are my biggest motivation. Aww. Actually, RM is the first one I played my album to. Aww, he trusts and respects him that much. So cute. Oh my, what was his reaction? I took him by surprise. He said, Hobie, I didn't know you would do this genre of music. He noticed that I tried something different and add more uniformity to the album. So Namjoon, the master storyteller, could tell that you were trying to make a story and was impressed by it? Yay! In a recent interview with Weverse magazine, you highlighted the importance of keeping the record. It may as well be unsatisfying. Unveiling the mixtape is also your record to keep. The memos and albums will do so. What? Whatever, we'll just read his answer. It really does. You know, I opened Pandora's box myself a few days ago. I found my old phone. I went through all the pictures I took in Hawaii, and they're just laughs. But it made my heart melt a bit. The record has its purposes and meanings. Oh, I think they're trying to say, like, even if you think your old stuff isn't perfect or you cringe at it and find it unsatisfying, you should still, there's an importance to not deleting it and keeping all of that out there because it's your memory from that time. I hope I'm interpreting this correctly. In the interview from last year, you talked about slumps and dilemmas. Were those about the do I go for it or do I need to take a break here? The emotional theme of the solo? I had a meltdown around that time. I played a few works for my solo album to the producers I know, and their reaction was not what I expected. But you know what's funny though? I got more creative doing a fresh start. I erased them all and it's just cleared my mind. I do not avoid challenges and slumps. I am the kind of person who encounters and overcomes it. Like, let's just do it. Jack in the Box actually walks through the journey. Oh, so he made a bunch of music and then probably their other friends who are the in-house producers heard them and were like, maybe not. And Hobie was like, oh no, what am I doing with my life? Oh, this is horrible. I've made I need to work so much harder. I need to learn so much more. And then he just erased it all and started from scratch. Cutie. God, he's so cute. What do you think is your best characteristic? Embracing. I know I can be embracing. I believe my parents played a huge role in this. I know how to accept. I like to listen rather than speak. If someone is to pour out their emotions on me, I can sit there and listen to them. Whatever reaction and feedback you have on me, I would take it as an opportunity to grow and advance. And more, I am really good at reading people's minds. Giggle. So it puts me in a good position as a middleman in the group. Yeah, I can really see that. It makes me see that, like, one interview that he, Namjoon, and not interview, but like the live that he, Namjoon, and Tae did when they were working on B. He didn't talk a lot. He listened a lot and then like provided his answers like towards the end of the discussion between Tae and Namjoon, or provided his like his suggestions or whatever. That's really interesting. Yeah, I can totally tell with so many personalities there, like big personalities, and in our group of 7 to have Hobie there who can be like kind of the middleman and the translator from one person to another is probably really helpful. Your first encounter with music is through dancing. Your ability to embrace might have held a critical role when you Your ability to embrace might have held a critical role when you overcome to learn rap, compose, and write lyrics. Okay, sure. I believe I would enjoy them instead of overcome them when it comes to those kinds of tasks. A dancer boy from Gwangju is my foundation. From that, I pulled it off one by one, thinking, okay, this is my first time. So what? Let's just give it a try. When I accomplished one, oh, so this is how it turns out. Fun. I need to take an interest first to do something. Makes sense. I guess the music you played to dance played a huge role in shaping your universe. What kind of music did you listen to? When I was younger, definitely boom bop. Old school and new jack swing as well. I danced locking to funk music, James Brown, you know, and Wu-Tang Clan, of course. Actually, What If from this album is the one I sampled, Shimmy Shimmy Ya. Those times I danced to the music naturally built my foundation, I guess. In that sense, the album reflects my identity. That's what I thought when I listened to the music. It seemed like it was his dance music. It's like very sentimental, fundamental things to him. Can we really turn our heads away from the trend? Did you ever think about adding a bit of what's in the pop market? No. If I thought about the trend even a bit, it would change the album upside down. I hear house music a lot these days, like the one you might hear in a club. Getting on a chart was never an option for me from the start. It was just about being me, doing what I want to do. Good for him. What about Lollapalooza? It's a music festival in Chicago in July. It will be a big stage to stand alone, the biggest challenge. I can say it with one word. Lollapalooza is a challenge. A challenge. How can I stay calm? I am working hard and have this huge respect for all the solo artists. Clapping. It's not easy to perform several songs live in a row. I feel the absence of the members. I miss them. Aww. What do you know about Lollapalooza? Chicago's iconic music festival. My favorite artists have been on the stage. I've seen Tyler, the Creator's performance once and it was awesome. With your solo album release and a festival solo performance before you, does your desire tell you, I want to be recognized? I know I have goals and ambition, but it's rather close to, I want people to know that I exist here. That is the reason I planned the listening party and joined Lollapalooza. Those are huge events that make me wonder if I can do this. You know, I can just call people I know and perform, but the music festival is a place where I can get a sober assessment of the audience. They will jump and dance if I am any good. If I suck, they will not react. I really need to be on the stage alone. Interesting. Does it kind of sound like he's trying to say, like, I need an audience that's not just armies, but other people, so I get a genuine reaction to if my music sucks? Little does he know, armies bought out the fucking like stage area or whatever. I understand what he's trying to say, though. He's really trying to gain a measure of understanding of if he on his own, without any of the other members, can make music that makes people react the way people do to the group of them. I get it. What would you do if your solo album is not well received? Oh, that's my burden to take. I would ask myself, was I too arrogant? Did I just do what I like? And learn my lesson. My God, he has such an amazing, like, humble, chill perspective on life. This is someone you come to for advice. This is like, he's got such a good head on his shoulders. You cannot imagine how excited and happy you look through the whole interview. I want to ask you about your dream, but right now you have a box to open and jump out of, right? Yeah, I am one step away from my dream. Focus on what you're doing right now. That is my dream now. I wonder if there would be another time in life that is this important. Aww. What do you need to keep your fire alive or to light it bigger? I need people to listen to my music and follow my trials. And a sane mentality. I love him. He's so like mature. He's got such a good head on his shoulders. Wendy says I wanted to give him a hug, and then that video of him grunting changed the mood. Wait, what video of him grunting? What are you talking about, Wendy? What are we referring to? Do I want to know? By the way, this look on him is very Japanese to me. Like this long highlighted hair. He looks so good. When he went live. Oh yeah, when in Chicago. Alrighty. Do you guys want to read another one? Might as well. I can go through all of them. The other ones I have are in English from the get-go, so hopefully there won't be a translation issue. Alrighty, so this is the Variety interview that he did on the 15th. Can't remember if I read this one or not, so I'm just gonna read it again. We're gonna read it together. J-Hope talks balancing solo career with BTS, and now his hip-hop album revealed a darker side of me. Looking very sexy. If we were going to borrow the terminology of one pop culture juggernaut, Star Wars for another BTS, we might call this phase of the career of one of the group's members, BTS Episode 2, A New J-Hope. Oh honey, you're late to the party. They've already done the episodes with their concerts. At least, J-Hope himself considers this the beginning of a second chapter in the ensemble's career, as well as a fresh start for his own. As today he releases Jack in the Box, the first in a series of solo albums that each member of BTS is expected to be putting out in the months to come. It makes sense that the artist known off stage as Jung Ho-seok would be the first band member to release a full solo project during what is being characterized as a refueling between group endeavors. What do you mean it makes sense that he'd be the first? How would you know? Anyway. Since he's known primarily as a rapper, there will necessarily be fewer comparisons drawn between his solo material and the last couple of years of BTS pop earworms like Dynamite and Butter. You think that's why he's going first? Okay, whatever. Why am I so mean about these articles? I'm sorry. I'm just being honest. I read every article with a grain of salt. I don't trust anyone to know BTS the way I, an actual fan, do, who spend all of my time keeping up with them. But okay, let me keep reading. But in another sense, there's risk involved in coming right out with something that bears quite so little similarity to anything that would have recently been described as a BTS signature sound, even if a different side of hip-hop has been a constant flavor in the group's 8-year discography. Disagree. No, there is no risk, because people in this fandom have been with them a very long time, and we are more familiar with this side of them. Plus, D2 came out in 2020. They're still... Jazzy says I was going to say it because we know them better. Yeah, right? Okay. I'm gonna try and get through a paragraph without arguing with it. The potential reward is certainly worth that risk. The payoff of planting a more significant flag in the ground for South Korean solo rappers with as impressive and credible a hip-hop album as Jack in the Box turns out to be. Okay. A few days before the release of Jack in the Box, and just before we've had a chance to sample the album beyond its first single, More, Variety spoke with J-Hope via Zoom and via a translator about how he hoped to show off a different side of himself with the new record, which he described as one that definitely reveals a little darker side of me than anything he's produced with BTS to date. And after the announcement of the solo projects nearly set off a minor global panic about the group's future, he set the record further straight about just how little worry the world should have about that, in his view. With all the group members now known to be making solo albums, you're the first out of the gate with one. Can that be taken as any indication that you the most eager of all to be ready to go kind of so soon after that announcement. Actually, the order didn't really matter to us. Well, this rebuts that stupid thing they set up there. They didn't care about the fucking order. Even when I worked on BTS group projects all along, I have always thought hard and long about what type of music I can show to the world as J-Hope. I actually consistently thought about that. And the timing worked out really well, so I just happened to be the first one to go solo among my team members. But at the same time, because I'm the first one to release a solo album, I do feel the weight on my shoulders. And I do want to start off successfully for all of our team members as well. I was a little bit worried, and I don't want to risk or undermine our reputation as a team with BTS. However, overall, I'm very confident and content with the album. I really poured everything into this album and conveyed the messages that I wanted to convey. So no matter what the feedback or the reaction is like, I have no regrets. And I'm willing to take any type of feedback as well. I'm open-minded to that. Good boy. I love him. But I think I expected this. I've talked about it in past streams, that I felt like he would feel a lot of responsibility in a sense of like, I need to do this right. I need to do this right for myself, for BTS, and start us off with a bang. This boy feels so much responsibility in so many different ways. After putting out a mixtape, Hope World, so many years ago, you had the song Chicken Noodle Soup with Becky G out in 2019 as your most recent solo activity. Have you been working on stuff ever since then, or was that a one-off in our mind? And it's really just a recent flurry of activity where you worked on this album. There's typos even here? Do these writers read their own shit before they post? Yummy, be nice. The theme of Jack in the Box is a theme that has been running in my head for a long time. Stop moving! These stupid ads keep moving the fucking text. I thought about this theme for a long time because it has to do with my stage name, J-Hope. So I always wanted to reflect the story about my stage name in my music. But it is true that after the pandemic started, I definitely focused more on producing my solo album. During the pandemic, I realized that life goes on despite all these challenges, and I should not do nothing. I actually got to have a little bit more individual time, me time, so I definitely decided to be a little more productive despite the pandemic going on. So that's when I started focusing on producing my individual music along with BTS music. And in the past, I released Hope World and Chicken Noodle Soup, and during those times, I definitely planned the right timing for these pieces because I thought, this is the right time that I highlight my dance moves, that I showcase my dance performance. This album, called Jack in the Box, is the moment that I wanted to highlight my artistry and music. So I've thought a lot about this theme. This has been my long-term plan. More typos. Tisk fucking tisk. More, the first single with a real change of pace, and something it would have been hard to do within the context of BTS, with rap verses and then a rock band coming in at the chorus. No, cough cough Dionysus. As seen in the video. Is one more typos? Come on, variety. Is that one style out of many on the album, or a real indication of where the rest of the album goes? There is definitely a clear reason why I chose More as the first track to be released. I wanted to express a little bit of a darker side to me, of me, as J-Hope, as an individual. This song is very powerful, and actually the feeling that you might have got when you first listened to the song is probably definitely reflected on all the other tracks in the album. I'm not saying that rap sound is the main theme or the focal point of my album. However, the overall flow or style is kind of consistent throughout all the tracks. You'll probably understand better once you hear the full tracks after the album is released in a few days. This album is full of this type of particular style, and it definitely reveals a little darker side of me, a different aspect of myself. But I ask for your great support once it's released. What can you say about the song Arson, which will be the second song to have a video? The photos being released from the video show you looking pristine and all white, but then singed from what looks like an automotive explosion of some kind. If you look at the names on the track list, there are many songs with very interesting titles, such as Equal Sign and There Are No Bad People in the World, aka Stop, and especially Arson. The title imagery definitely fits the visual concept that I chose for this song. This is a song about J-Hope's own ignition of my own passion. I ignited a passion for myself to pursue my career, to pursue my music. But looking back, it kind of went out of control, and the whole world around me is on fire. That was my interpretation as opposed to Myeong-seok. But looking back, it kind of went out of control and the world around me is on fire. I have released a lot of songs and music, and I have gotten to receive love and support from all around the world. So now the fire, or the ignition of the passion, is not easy to put out anymore. So I wanted to visually express and convey that message through the song titled Arson. And the song is also about how now I am at a crossroads, a point of choosing between whether I want to put out this fire that I started, or do I want to continue and make it flame even more. I believe personally that this song Arson is even more powerful than More in terms of the style and the visual concept, as well as the impression it will make. I'm very excited about what I will see in terms of reactions and feedback once the song is released. I agree, because Arson is like the fundamental truth for him. Like, what the fuck do I do with myself now? I've already talked about this at length in the other stream I did, so I won't go into it again now. But I agree that Arson is more impactful than More. More is like part one. It's like him realizing like, I want more. I want to become more successful, more well recognized. I want to make more music. I can't stop. And Arson is, oh God, what the fuck have I done? Like, I literally, like, it's so hard to stop. So do I make an effort to stop, or do I keep going and potentially burn up with the force and the heat of my own passion? Do you feel like you have kind of secret influences, or influences that people are not well known to people, that you're really getting to exercise with this album musically? I hate how poorly worded these questions are, but okay. You'll probably understand this better when the album is released and you listen to all the tracks. There are no featured guests in my album. All the tracks are filled with my voice only. Because I wanted to convey my own narrative, my own story as an individual, I thought that featured guests are not necessary in this album production, and I believe that filling all these songs with my own voice, with my voice only, would make this album very authentic. Yes, true. True. When you feature someone, people automatically focus on the feature and less on you. It's just something we do. So when you ask me what kind of influences I've got, I think the influence that I've had when working on the album was my inner self, my identity as an individual. The inner self and my thoughts while working as part of BTS and of the history of my life have been the influences. And if you ask musical influences that I had when working on the album, because my career first started based on street dance, I believe that the music that I used to dance to definitely laid the foundation for my music. So you will hear a lot of old school hip hop as the basis of the music style in this album. Cool, that's what I thought. You have a performance coming up as a headliner at the Lollapalooza Festival at the end of July. Can I just say, everything he's saying here makes me feel like I interpreted his album correctly, that the way we talked about it in my other stream, like we were all on the same page with what Hobie was putting out. And now I feel like I feel like that Weverse interview guy was like, he went to a different dimension to interpret it. I don't understand what the fuck he was saying. Can you offer a preview of what your performance style will be like? Because since you have been so associated with dance in the past, people might think that without the group members to accompany you, you might still have a set of dancers with you and it'll be highly choreographed. But in the More video, there are no dancers in that, and so that kind of suggests that maybe you might be going in a different direction with your onstage performance style as well. Can you describe what your live performances will be like as a solo artist? Actually, with the album Jack in the Box, I decided that I wanted to highlight the craft and artistry in the music by producing this album, releasing this album. So I'm not relying on my usual skill of dancing. I can say that I picked up a different, new weapon that I want to use, a different skill that I want to show to people. So this album might leave a very new impression of myself on the audience and listeners. And even when performing at Lollapalooza, I think my intention with producing this album will be reflected in my live performances as well. So I'm preparing many different things so that the solo performances won't be too loose. I'll be filling this performance with many different aspects and things. It will be great if you could really see it yourself. And I think once you listen to the whole album, you'll better understand why I chose to perform at Lollapalooza and why I decided to take on this huge challenge of performing at a festival as a solo performer. There was some concern among fans, naturally, when the solo projects were announced, that even though there were assurances that BTS would go on, it could spell a longer split. But on July 7th, it was announced that even amid this flurry of solo activity, BTS will be doing a concert in October in Busan to boost the idea of South Korea hosting the 2030 World Expo. Do you think that the concert announcement set people's minds about any worries they had about the future of... This is so poorly worded. The word you should use when you set people's minds is at ease. They forgot the phrase at ease. Yummy, stop being mad about the words. Focus on the content. When we talked about the temporary break or focusing on solo projects, we really just were trying to be honest with how we feel and what we want to pursue going forward. I was a little surprised that people took it in a different way than how we expected them to receive or understand that news. I think there was a little bit of loss in translation as we conveyed the message. And definitely we're not on hiatus. The team is going to remain active. We just learned a lot and we grew together as a team over the last decade, and I believe that was the chapter 1 for BTS. So for BTS to sustain longer and to even leap forward, we thought that chapter 2 was definitely needed. So although we grew together and we worked together as a team for the last 10 years, now perhaps it is our time to grow and to pursue what we wanted to do as individuals and focus more on personal growth as individuals. So we would like to embrace and experience many different things as we work on solo projects. Good. Yes. I've talked about this at length in a previous stream, so I'm not going to get into it again or else I'll be a fucking broken record, but this is exactly how I interpreted what they said and what I hoped that they would be happier doing all their solo stuff and finally taking a trip on in their 7 different directions off the boat that they had all been on. But that does not mean we are putting a stop on BTS group projects, of course. So we expect that after gaining all these experiences and having individual projects, we will have a greater synergistic effect as a team, and we believe that this is the sustainable and healthy way for us to grow as a team. So I think we are on the verge of starting the chapter 2 for BTS. And going forward, we will definitely be working on group projects as well as solo projects. As you mentioned, that there will be a concert in October, this event will be very meaningful to us as well. So I just hope that there's no misunderstanding about where we are going and what kind of directions we're taking as a team. By the way, they better live stream that fucking concert in Busan, and because I will be very mad if I don't get to participate. And which I'm sure they will, because the number of people streaming the concert will probably be one of the metrics that they say, like, look how many people tuned in for this. You need to bring the World Expo to where BTS is. Excuse me. But yeah, and also I want BTS to run BTS. But that's just me. That's my wish list. Okay, good. That's it. Yeah, I mean, this article had good things to say, but like, it was nice to hear Hobie's thoughts, but I'm very disappointed in the grammar and typos in the questions. I don't know why it was so shittily edited. Meh. All right, let's move on to NME, which reviewed the album. Okay, J-Hope. I'm losing my voice reading all these. J-Hope, Jack in the Box review. Bright BTS rapper delves into darkness on Sublime solo album. What a fun title. 5 stars? You got 5 stars from NME? That's fucking cool. Oh my god, these fucking ads. Go away. Anyone who knows even a little about J-Hope, the charismatic rapper and phenomenal dancer who has conquered the world with BTS, will know that his stage name suits him to a T. On stage and in the group's many pieces of content, he takes on the role of a bundle of sunshine and light, a smile never far from his face. But J-Hope is ultimately a persona, and Jung Ho-seok is just as multifaceted and layered a human being as the rest of us. Jack in the Box, his first solo album, and the first full-length release since BTS announced they would be putting more focus on individual projects, presents something darker, like walking behind a sun-dappled waterfall to find shadowy caves and the debris of erosion. It grapples... I actually like this metaphor and the imagery a lot. It grapples with themes of success, humanity, passion, and self-destruction, sharing J-Hope's anxieties and agonies via often murky hip-hop as he searches for answers to his questions. My life is becoming my enemy. It's getting lonesome, he raps gently over the slowed-down, soulful R&B of Safety Zone, a track that finds him hunting for a secure spot where he can fully unwind and unload. As a line that comes moments after he reflects on dedicating my entire 20s living up to this immeasurable life. It's hard not to link it to a sense of exhaustion or the idea that, after a certain point, success can feel like a burden rather than a world-opening joy. I like animals better than people these days, J-Hope confides, before wandering directionless. Where is the ray of light for relief in the dark? Where's my safe zone? Left, right, go straight? On the dark What If, which samples Old Dirty Bastard's Shimmy Shimmy Ya, he contemplates the dichotomy between his public persona and who he knows himself to be. I ask myself 100 times, am I really like that? He ponders, hopeful, optimistic, always with a smile on my face. Later, on a growling, grinding chorus, he speculates about what life would be like if he first lacked the driving forces of hope, dreams, passion, and vision, before moving on to more tangible things like money, house, and car. J-Hope might have taken off his bright, optimistic mask on Jack in the Box to show another dimension of his character, but that doesn't mean those qualities have been excised for good. They still creep in here in places, pushing forward his empathetic, sincere messages with glimmers of positivity. The brilliant "Stop" is a sharp examination of the ills of humanity that at first slams the actions of despicable parties. The acts of humans who are even worse than animals disgust me. In harsher words, even I doubt whether they're really animals. But then takes a step back to stop, calm down, down, and considers things more deeply. Yeah, let's go back to the basic and take another look at them, the rapper instructs over a snapping beat. The environment, education, system that they've been living in, how is it different from mine? He remains sanguine as he comes to his conclusions. We were born through the law of cause and effect. Despite that, our will can change anything. We're the makers, because a small start is a big leap, because there are no bad people in the world. The album's concept revolves around the Greek myth of Pandora's box, which sets free all the evils in the world, with only hope remaining in its walls. Moments like these evoke that, showing no matter what dark depths J-Hope plumbs, faith still stays strong within him. Equal Sign, meanwhile, asks for the rest of the world to join J-Hope in treating our fellow humans with kindness. Over infectious 90s hip-hop, he sings softly about letting go of our hatred to look for love in a different light. The shortest song on the album, save the intro and interlude, it begs to be fleshed out more, its glittering message of love over far too soon. Jack in the Box is smartly presented with a clearly signposted narrative. It flows in a way that makes it a treat to enjoy from start to finish, rather than dipping into songs at random. It opens with intro, an English narration of the song of Pandora's Box by a female voice, which ends tellingly with the line, "Hope gave people the will to carry on living beyond the pain and strife." 1 second. I think this is the last song of the thing. We're going to restart this one. At the centerpiece of the record is Music Box Reflection, an ominous instrumental that combines heavy breathing with an eerie music box melody, bass drones, and a scratchy beat. It serves as an interlude to the story, allowing its creator to shift lanes from the album's first message-filled half to a more introspective second half. I like this review much better, by the way. I like it a lot. The sounds on the record add to the atmosphere. J-Hope creates in the lyrics. He largely works with old-school hip-hop, but adds fresh ideas to the well-worn style. On More, he mixes in flashes of emo rock, shouting the chorus over heavy guitar chugs. Pandora's Box weaves an unsettling piano melody between the beats, while The Gleaming Future, reminiscent of early Kanye West, yeah, that's very true, lightens the mood with echoes of a children's choir. It's Arson, though, that feels like the most accomplished piece of work here. The star builds from a minimal, gloomy foundation, using his voice as his main instrument. Let's burn. Sorry, I'm really bad at recreating the song. He raps in its opening seconds. It's done. Done. Each repetition is delivered in a rumbling baritone, revving like an engine warming up to roar off into the distance. Very true, it does kind of sound like an engine. Yeah, I really like that about Arson. As the track progresses, J-Hope's flow switches from smooth and menacing to something choppier and more urgent, a siren-like sound ringing in the background behind him. It's a masterful, addictive end to the record that begs you to hit play over and over. Thought-provoking and full of fresh new flavor, Jack in the Box takes the J-Hope the world has come to know and love over the last 9 years, and sets that figure alight. From the ashes, though, comes a star more thrilling and formidable than ever, and seemingly unstoppable. This is a really good review. They really understood, at least from my perspective, what Hobie was trying to do with his album. Was this written by an army? Who wrote this? Who are you? Okay, they've reviewed aespa, Stray Kids, Psy, Gangnam Style. Okay, well, they're not a stranger to K-pop, but yeah, I think that was a really good review. All right, I got one more to read from Rolling Stone, and that'll be it. Rolling Stone. J-Hope isn't limited to bright things. That makes him sound like a magpie or like a cat. Whatever. I don't mean it negatively. It just caught me off guard. J-Hope isn't limited to bright things. The BTS star breaks down his full-length solo debut. RM, Jin, Suga, J-Hope, Jimin, V, and Jungkook have officially been together as BTS since 2013, working tirelessly while becoming the biggest band in the world. The group recently announced it would be embarking on a new chapter together, one that, for now, places an emphasis on solo activities. That is a very good way of describing it. Well done. A+. I like you already. Was this written by the army that interviewed them? No, that was Rolling Stone India. Never mind. Hold on, who wrote this? Okay, Christine Kwok. I don't know who that is. Although individual members have released mixtapes or singles in the past, none have officially released a full-length solo album until now. At first glance, J-Hope can seem like the most lighthearted and upbeat member of BTS, a big smile perpetually on his face. But there's a lot more than meets the eye. He's a transformer. Sorry. He's the group's lead dancer, but he's also involved in the creative process for every BTS album. He puts extreme care into his craft, and he isn't afraid to experiment. Yeah. Oh no. I can't see the rest of this article. If I do an incognito window, will you let me read it? It's my life. Yeah. Anyway, whoever taught me how to do this, I love you forever. Okay, where was I? Okay. With his new album, Jack in the Box, J-Hope, born Jung Ho-suk, turns introspective, showing off a darker side to his persona, not to mention how multidimensional he is. With More, the album's pre-release rock/hip-hop single, he surprised audiences and even bandmate RM with his approach. The album title is a play on Pandora's Box, which also inspired his stage name. Talking to Rolling Stone in Korean over Zoom, the 28-year-old dove into the creative process and what Jack in the Box means to him and his identity. The whole world is about to hear Jack in the Box. How are you feeling? It's half nervousness, half excitement. Since I'm the first one to go solo, I feel a sense of responsibility, and there's definitely some pressure as well. Jack in the Box is filled only with things I personally wanted to do, almost to the point where I worried myself. Did I focus too much on solely what I wanted to do? Laughs. I think that's where the half nervousness comes from. This album is really meaningful to me, and mostly I feel proud and excited it's coming out. Aww. Although BTS members have released mixtapes and singles in the past, you're the first to release a full-length solo album. How did that decision come about? Rather than thinking of an order of who would release first while promoting as BTS, I kept asking myself the question, what type of music can I do as BTS's J-Hope? I am always asking myself that question, steadily coming up with a plan. I think by doing that, naturally, my 2018 mixtape Hope World came out. And from reflecting more, I realized I wanted to show more dancing, which you can consider as my main foundation. That led to the creation of 2019 solo single Chicken Noodle Soup, which features more of that. I started to think that J-Hope needed to show more sincerity in music, and that's what I focused on while approaching Jack in the Box. I think timing-wise, I ended up becoming the first because I was constantly preparing. I didn't approach the project with wanting to be first in mind. Well, side note, you know how there was random people upset that Namjoon is saying that he thinks he's going to be the next one to release his solo album? And people were like, well, what about the rest of them? It's just whoever's done first, okay? There is no deeper meaning or secrecy or strategy behind it. It's just whoever's done, go release your fucking shit. Let us all revel in it. It's not that deep. I hate mantis so fucking much. Anyway, okay, back to happy things. How long has Jack in the Box been in the making? You've mentioned in the past that you always have a plan, and in a recent V-Live, you confirmed that the artwork for last year's full version of Blue Side was somewhat of a spoiler for this album, with the Jack in the Box illustration and the words Pandora's Box. The Jack in the Box concept is actually tied heavily into my stage name, so I think I've always had the idea in my back pocket. I've always felt the need to unveil music tied to Jack in the Box thematically for a long time. Pandora's Box is also an analogy for my name. When can I release this? When can I make an album that includes these elements? These questions were always in my head. I wanted to include spoilers of these themes in the artwork for Blue Side, and while discussing with the artists behind the work, I clearly stated that I wanted these elements included. That's how systemic my approach was as I prepared the album and its tracks. When was Blue Side released? That was in 2021, right? Or was it 2020? It was 2021, right? Oh, let's look this up. J-Hope. Damn it. I moved my keyboard further away, now it's hard to type. When did you come out? Yeah, March 2021. Okay. You've shown darker sides to yourself in tracks like One Verse from 2015. Even with Hope World, although visually it may seem colorful, the lyrics show depth. Yeah, I always thought that, especially with Hung Song and Bassline. How did you decide to visually go darker and heavier with more in the full album? First off, how do you know One Verse? Laughs. I think it's this. While being part of BTS for 10 years, I've experienced a lot. From that standpoint, of course there are stories I want to tell, and I realized that it could be tough to tell some of these stories through music with the existing image and vibe of J-Hope. I felt the need to show more of my darker aspects, and I think I really wanted to do something like this. I wanted people to realize that J-Hope isn't limited to bright things. He can do these concepts and has a wide spectrum. I wanted to call attention to this ability by challenging myself. I didn't think much of the future. Just wholly focused on what I wanted to do, what I wanted to express, what I wanted to show. That was the focus. And Jack in the Box has those raw elements. When this album is opened, I am a little worried because it contains only what I wanted to do. Smiles. I'm very curious how people will react. But what I really want to say is that the album is filled with my soul and my sincerity. In that way, it's a unique album. And the album is very meaningful because, in terms of musicality, it's going to act as a stepping stone for J-Hope to go forward. Yeah, I totally understand. Like, I also think that J-Hope is, of all of them, I said this before on another stream, like, I think he holds a lot of stuff close to his chest and just, like, holds a lot of stuff in and doesn't share everything. Like, he's not maybe as honest or raw a lot of the time as some of the other members, and that's not a bad thing. Like, I'm kind of like that. I hide a lot of negative stuff because, I don't know, it's just that's how I am. So I don't think it's wrong that he does it that way. But I think in making this album exactly the way he wanted and not being focused on commercial success and being so raw and all these things and that he's talking about on the album, I think that feeling of being like, oh my God, I've been so raw and honest. I'm so vulnerable right now. What if people don't like it? What if they don't know how to receive this or react to this album? Like, what the fuck am I gonna do then? What if I can never be honest like this ever again because they don't like it? I think that's that's very unique for Hobie to have this kind of thought process in relation to his solo release. All right, let's keep going. With the beats, you're using more of that old school hip hop sound as a foundation. What if even samples old dirty bastards shimmy shimmy? Yeah, I've engraved that knowledge in my brain now. I will never forget. What made you want to take the album in this direction? When you hear the music, you'll know, but that sound is my foundational base. The music I listen to when dances, cute. The vibe that I had, that's what I express in the music, and that's what got included in Jack in the Box. Going back to what I want it to do, what I'm capable of as my base. I think through that, it's become more sincere, more J-Hope-esque, while visually, I'm able to show something very different. I think the album contains elements that are fun and engaging, both visually and orally. I think for fans, there are definitely elements that they'll find very J-Hope-esque. When More came out, some people were shocked. J-Hope? J-Hope is doing music like this? Rock? Emo? Hip-hop? Emo rock? But I think if you listen to the album, you'll start to realize there's a clear reason why J-Hope chose music like this, why he chose this track, why he chose this line. Jack in the Box features 2 title tracks, More and Arson. In the Korean music industry, title track is often used to describe the lead track of an album, regardless of whether the track shares a title with the album. You mentioned that you were... You mentioned that you were surprised when More was chosen as one of them. How did you decide on Arson as the second title track? Wait, Hobie was surprised that More was chosen? When did he say that? He said some people were shocked, not himself. Okay. How did you decide on Arson as the single title track? All right, I'll let this one go. As soon as I heard it, I felt like it was meant to be. I put everything I am able to convey and just most of my energy into the song. I chose it because I felt like the song's style shows the zenith of J-Hope's emotions. Arson is a song that feels like a turning point and crossroads. It has the fire, the passion that I wanted this album to possess. The song is also last on the track list. One of the reasons for this is I found that this song nicely packages up my thoughts behind why I created this album. The track acts as a period at the end of a sentence and clearly straightens out what I wanted to express with this album. Agreed. You had shared that the members of BTS were all with you when More was released. Have the members heard the full album? Do they have any favorites? The first person oh my god, I'm losing my voice. Hold on. The first person I share the album with, it's always the same for me. I always share with RM first. Aww. I could have also shared it with Suga, but he likes to be very respectful of the process. Oh, he told me I'll listen to it when it comes out. He always says that to me. There's a bit of shock and motivation that comes after hearing that. When it gets released, I'll look it up and listen to it then. Aww. So I let RM hear it first, and after that was Jungkook. For the other members, I showed them the title songs, but not the full album. Interesting. Interesting. I wonder why he does that. Does he want some surprise from the other members and like to get their live reactions? Does he just favor the other producers, right? Because most like the of the members, the ones most focused on producing music are Namjoon, Suga, oh my god, Namjoon, Yoongi, and Jungkook. Interesting. Anyway, when RM heard the album, he said, "Wow, I didn't think you'd do music like this. I have a bit of a brain freeze." Smiles. Quote, "And it's so you. The fact that you brought this music at this time, I really respect it, and I love that it's so you." He gave me that feedback. For Jungkook, it was really funny. After hearing the album, he suddenly went to his studio. Laughs. I think he felt the motivation to start. I love that one of our greatest motivators is one another. Me too. That's very healthy. I'm like that myself. When one of my members is doing a certain type of music or working on an album, I see their individuality and color and think to myself, I have my own color too. I want to reveal mine too. We influence each other positively and are good motivators to one another. When More came out, we were all together for work. Smiles. They were very surprised by the strong visual direction that J-Hope did this type of music. They were surprised. I love that. I love that so much. And yeah, I really think it's healthy for all of them to be each other's rivals because honestly, musically, I wouldn't be surprised if they all only respect each other because no one else has been on the journey on their journey except them and been through all the shit that they've gone through. And, you know, I can really see them all just being like, these are my core motivators. And when I see them doing something, they encourage me to do something as well. That's cool. I love that. And of course, congratulations on Lollapalooza. You're the first South Korean artist to headline a major US festival, which is huge news. How did you react when you heard about it? It's such a huge honor to be invited to such a big festival and to be a headliner too. If you've heard more, and when you listen to Jack in the Box, you'll realize clearly why I said okay to Lollapalooza and chose to participate. I really want to show my musicality and wanted to show J-Hope's live show to a big audience. While practicing, I'm used to performing as BTS's J-Hope, one of 7. Now that I'm trying to fill an hour-long set list alone, hour long! Oh, that's exciting. I'm realizing that it is tough. Smiles. I feel the need to really focus and be detail-oriented as I check things off. That's the headspace I am in as I prepare these days. It may seem haughty or like a reckless challenge, but even that, it just depends on how you want to perceive it. There's a lot to learn, and I'm stepping up to the challenge. I would love to give some spoilers, but I think it would be best to be there in person to see, or streaming. I'm going to show musicality the way I did with Jack in the Box. But not only that, there will also be elements of the J-Hope image expressed. That is my not-so-spoiler-like spoiler. Wait, what? I'm going to show musicality the way I did with Jack in the Box. But there will also be elements of the J-Hope image expressed. I would interpret that as him saying, I will do some dancing and I will try to wow you with my dancing the way you know I can, but I'm also gonna focus on giving you different imagery and music and be more experimental, which I'm also totally okay with. I want it all. Very excited for this. You've said that you learned something new and mature with each album. What did you learn with Jack in the Box? I think it's a little early for me to say. I like to steadily listen to it. When something comes out, I like to listen to it consistently and steadily gather feedback. I also like to listen to your guys' music consistently and steadily gather my interpretation. So, twinsies. With this album, I've asked many people for feedback. There's a lot of things I start to realize from getting the feedback. I'm doing a listening party with artists and industry people to enjoy the music together. One of the reasons for this is to show them, J-Hope is doing this type of music. What do you think of it? To get that feedback and take it in and to improve. Oh wow, that's very interesting. I mean, again, I think for most people, it's very normal to not be good with feedback or criticism, because when people give it, they usually ding you in a place that's like very close to your heart and like your identity, and you're like, I don't like this. I'm perfect. Why don't you understand what I was trying to do? Why are you criticizing me? That's very normal. Most of us are like that. And yet you have this really grounded person named Hobie who's like, I want feedback. I'm open to it. I want to learn and improve and see what other people have to say. The balls on this man. That's really impressive. I hope he does improve and get connections and get direction and figure out what he wants to do going forward. And then he finishes up by saying, I think right now it's too early to say what I've learned. I think at the end of July, or maybe early August, I'll have a clearer picture of what my learnings are. This is now the start. This is the start of everything I wanted to challenge myself with, and to show with Jack in the Box. So I think going forward, there will be more for me to process. Yeah, that's all of it. Hope he's amazing. I love him. I love him so much. Alrighty. Well, that is all of the articles that I had. I hope you've enjoyed listening to me read through them and provide you with my commentary because I couldn't be quiet. So I'm just trying to find one more song. There it is. So yeah, so I'm gonna end it here unless you guys have any comments you'd like to make about anything I've read. Was I alone in like my confrontational interpretation of that Weverse magazine? Because out of all of the articles I read today, that is the one I enjoyed least. And I really liked the Rolling Stone one, and I really liked the NME review. Is that how you say it? Is it like NME? Is that supposed to be enemy? Because if it is, my mind just got blown. I didn't know that was what it was supposed to be. But yeah. So yeah, all right. I guess with that, I will call it a night. So good night, good morning, good afternoon, wherever in the world you guys are. Oh, Ray says the Rolling Stone one looked like they actually did research, right? It really did. Yeah. You can also tell that like Hobie enjoyed talking to them. His responses were long. He had a lot to say. And he seemed to be like, he had like the space to say what he wanted. And I will point out, even Hobie was surprised. Yeah. I will also point out that like, both this one and the NME interview had translators, and that didn't get in the way of Hobie being able to express himself, and he spoke a lot. And yet, in contrast, I bet you he did all three of this, the Rolling Stone, the NME one, and Variety all on the same day. But out of all three of them, Variety is the one that sucked. He probably had the same translator for all three of these, but no, I will say his responses to the Variety article were really good. It's just the questions that were like, what the fuck happened with these questions? They were like long run-on sentences with full of typos and grammatical errors. So I will say his answers were good. In contrast, I don't know how I feel about the W Korea interview. It really didn't tell me that much, and I can't tell if that was just like a translational thing because the translation was off and it wasn't like the best, or if that's just an interview Hobie didn't feel comfortable in. But yeah, and then the Weverse one, the Weverse interpretation, I'm rejecting it. I don't agree with it. Again, it's allowed to be true. Like, right, you can no, that's fine, Jazzy. Like, more than one thing can be true at once. I'm not saying the interview is wrong, or I'm not saying the interpretation is wrong. I'm just saying that I personally don't agree with it. And that's fine too. The last Weverse one or the first one? This one that I just that I read today, the first one that I read, it was Human J-Hope. Also, that title is weird. Jazzy says, yeah, I don't think the journalist actually spoke to Hobie. But here's the thing. I agree. It doesn't seem like he spoke to Hobie. But if this is being published in Weverse, the publication that Hybe controls, you would think that they would, like, fact check it or make sure Hobie was in line with it and, like, agreed with what they were putting out. Like, in general, the concepts of, like, Hobie being burnt out from the pandemic and wanting to... Let's play this again. And like, wanting, not knowing, not like being burnt out and not having any hope and wanting to find hope. Like, okay, sure. I think the parts that I got lost on were the parts where he was saying, like, Jack in the Box is a prime motif of this entire album. Hobie is the Jack, and he is the guiding principle and also the dark side and the alter ego of hope. And I'm like, what? You've lost me. Anyway, I'm a sassy reader. If I wasn't saying these things out loud to you as I read, I still think them when I read. I don't know. Maybe I'm alone, but I can't help it. I don't trust anything I read. Okay, all right. Now for real, I will let you guys go. Thank you for hanging out with me and for chatting with me about these articles. I hope I have given you an audio version of these so that you can just listen and chat about them with me and not have to use your eyeballs, because we're all very busy people. But yeah, until next time. Bye, guys.